Okay, so this is Algebra 1, Semester 2, Chapter 8485, Special Case of Multiplying and Factoring. So, when it comes to squaring a binomial, so we're going to have three cases in this section. So we're going to have A plus B squared. That is A plus B times A plus B. So let's use FOIL to solve for this. So A times A, which is plus A times B B times A, and I'll write that as AB, and then B times B. So this is FOIL, right? First, outer, inner, last. A times A is A squared. AB plus AB, remember there's a 1 in front of these guys. So 1AB plus 1AB is 2AB. And then B times B is B squared. So this is sort of the general guidelines from where you square binomials. A squared plus B squared equals A squared plus 2AB plus B squared. Is a general guideline for when you add the sum of your polynomials. So this has to have the plus sign in between. Otherwise, this isn't going to work. There's also an equation for when they have differences. And it follows the same general guidelines of FOIL. So A minus B squared, with the minus sign now, is A minus B times A minus B. Again, we can use FOIL, A times A. A times negative B. Negative B times A. And then we have negative B times negative B, which is positive B times B. A times A is A squared. Remember, there's a 1 in front of here, there's a 1 in front of here. Negative AB plus negative AB is negative 2AB. And then B times B is B squared. So when the operation is a minus sign, then your guideline is going to be A squared minus 2AB plus B squared. Those are the two of the three conditions. Then we have a third condition that we'll get to later. So with those two conditions in mind, it sets us up for solving basically perfect squares of binomials. Here's the key concept. So an example of this, the book gives us is got it 1a is going to be n minus 7 squared, which is the same thing as n minus 7 times n minus 7. So when we get to this situation, we're going to use our guideline. A minus b squared is a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. So in this case, this n is our a term, and this negative 7 is our b term. Okay. Well, a squared is just going to be n times n. That's my n squared. Negative 2ab, so it's going to be a minus 2. My a is n. my b term is 7. And then my b term is just going to be 7 times 7, which is 7 squared, or 49. So this is my a squared, this is my 2ab, this is my b squared. So once I got those set up, all I have to do is put them together. Negative n squared minus 2n. So negative 2 times 7 is actually 14, so it's going to be 14n, and then plus 49. And that's it. You memorize your guidelines, or you set up your guidelines and you just plug them in. So that's A. So let's look at what does B look like. So with B, I have 2x plus 9 squared. Okay, so we can say that the 2a is my a term and the plus 9 is my b term. So since that's my a term, we're going to have my 2x squared. I'll have to put the whole thing in parentheses. So since the whole thing is in parentheses, that's going to be 2x times 2x, which is 4x squared. My 2ab, so I'm going to have 2 times 2x times 9. So 2 times 9 is 18, 2 times 2 is 4, so 4 times 9 is 36, so this is going to be 36x. And then my b squared is going to be 9 squared, which is 81. So then when I put it all together, it's going to be 4x squared plus 36x plus 81 when I put it all together. And if you don't trust it, you can always use FOIL and put it together, but it will give you the same thing. Okay. Applying squares of binomial. Don't worry about that. We're not going to do math. I'm not going to do that on any tests, so I'm not going to worry about that part either. And quite frankly, in the real world, you're going to have a calculator or some device that's going to help you do it. So I deal in real world stuff. All right, so the last example is going to be what happens when you multiply terms that are the same but different operations. So a plus b times a minus b. So if I was to do FOIL, it would be a times a, then I have a times negative b minus a times b, and then plus a times b, and then minus b times b. And then when I expand that out, it's going to be a squared minus ab plus ab minus b squared. So let's look at the inside terms. These guys are opposites, right? Negative ab, positive ab, these guys cancels out. They're gone. So I'm just left with these guys. So it's going to be a squared minus b squared. So this is going to be the guideline that we use where we're multiplying two terms that are the same but have different operations, meaning a plus sign here and a negative sign here. But they're still a and b. So examples of this, they give us 3. We have got it 4a x plus 9x minus 9. So again, a plus b times a minus b gives me a squared minus b squared. So I look at this. This is my a term. This is my b term. This is my a term. This is my b term. All I have to do is just square it. So x times x squared, 9 times 9, 9 squared. So then my final answer is going to be x squared minus 9 squared, which is 81. And that's it. That's all we do. Square root of a term and the b term. Got it b. We have 6 plus m squared times 6 minus m squared. So that's going to be 6 times 6 minus m squared times m squared. 6 times 6 is 36. And then m squared times m squared is m to the 4th. And that's it. That's all I do. And the last one, 3c plus 4. Alright, so for c, I have 3c minus 4 times 3c plus 4. Again, same a and b terms, a, b, just different operations. So this is going to be 3c times 3c. 3 times 3 is 9. C times c is c squared. Then I got 4 times 4, which is 16. So put them together. 9c squared minus 16. Okay. So that's 8, 4. Again, we're not going to do the mental math stuff because you're going to have stuff called calculators that can do it for you, and there's really no point. 8, 5, factoring. Alright, so we're not going to like this, but hey, it's life. We're going to utilize something called the diamond method. This is only factoring with no numbers in the a squared term, so we should be okay. When we are factoring, it's factoring a trinomial. So we're going to try factor a trinomial to its 2 binomial components. The best way is to just get into it. So they give me an r squared. This has got it 1 plus 11r plus 24. So there's a 1 here, so we're going to assume that there's a 1. So the way that the diamond method works is that, I don't know why they call it a diamond when it's an x, but okay. The way that the diamond method works Actually, before I get to that part, this is going to be my A term. This is going to be my B term. This is going to be my C term. So the book is going to write it as, and see, they just have it as x squared, but it should be ax squared plus bx plus c, right? Where a is the coefficient in front of the x squared, b is the coefficient in front of this x, and then c is the constant, just the number. So when we do the diamond method, we're drawing an x. At the top of the x, God, I can't even draw a line. It's going to be the product of A times C. In this case, for this section, A is just always going to be 1. And then at the bottom, it's going to be your B. And these two guys are going to fill in with the two numbers at the same time that fulfills the product of A and C. And then when I add them up, gives me B. So in the case of number 1, I got to think of a number that when I multiply, remember there's a 1 in front of that guy. So it's going to be 1 times 24. And when I add the 1 times 24 together, whatever that product is, it's going to give me 11. So when I do this, I draw a chart in my head. And this is going to be your factor tree. How many different ways can I make 24? Well, there's 1 times 24. There is 2 times 12. That equals 24. 3 times 8. That equals 24. 4 times 6. That equals 24. And I'm going to stop right there. When I add 1 and 24, it's going to give me 25. When I add 2 and 12, it's going to give me 14. Again, 25 and 24 and 14 is not 11. When I add 3 and 8, I get 11. 4 and 6, I get 10. So the one that seems to apply is 3 and 8. Since they're both positive, your answer is going to be set up as positive. So your answer is going to be, are you kidding me? You're funny. Your answer is going to be r plus 3. This is going to be 3 and 8 times r plus 8. And then when I do FOIL, it's going to work. R times r is r squared. R times 8 is 8r. 3 times r, 3r. 3 times 8, 24. I combine those terms, and that gives me r squared plus 11 r plus 24. So it works. It checks out. And then you're probably wondering, well, why am I doing the 1 times 24? It's going to set us up for the next section when we have an actual variable coefficient in front of that squared term. So I got to think of a number that when I multiply them, the a and the b term, it gives me 24. And then when I add them up, it's going to give me 11. There's a couple of ways to find this r plus 3, r plus 8. That's way more complicated, but it's going to sort of set you up for the future sections. So just keep in mind that when there's going to be a term in front, you can do other stuff too to find that 3 and 8 to set it up. But for right now, we'll leave it at that. So that's got it 1. Okay, so notice for number 1, both of the terms were addition. That's one scenario. There's another scenario. There's another scenario where they're not both plus. So we're going to go through some of those scenarios. So for 2a, we have y squared minus 6y plus 8. So this is a little different in that we have a minus 6 and a plus 8. Diamond method still applies. Remember that there's a 1 in front of here. So it's going to be a 1 times 8, which is 8. This is the product. 1 times 8, which is 8. And then when I add the factors of 1 and 8, it's going to give me negative 6. It's going to give me negative 6. So since I know that my final answer is going to be a negative, when I set up my factor tree, my product, I'm going to make the bigger number the minus sign. So plus 1 times negative 8, right, gives me, I'm sorry, negative 1 times negative 8 gives me positive 8. When I add them up together, gives me negative 9. That doesn't work. Then I have negative 2 times negative 4. When I draw 4. Negative 2 times negative 4 gives me positive 8, right? When I add negative 2 and negative 4 together, I get negative 6. Yay. So those are going to be my two factors. It's going to be x minus 2 times x minus 4. Again, I had to think of two numbers. When I multiply them, gives me positive 8, but when I add them up together, gives me negative 4, which told me that I was going to definitely be dealing with negative numbers. Of course, I can FOIL it. X times x to do my check is x squared. X times negative 4 is negative 4x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x, and then negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. Combine them, x squared minus 6x plus 8, and it works. Oh, these are y's. Nyeh. You get the deal. Y. I don't feel like going through all that, but same thing. It doesn't apply. The process is still the same. So when you have a negative sign in here and a positive sign out here, you most likely are going to multiply two negative terms, and then when you add them up, it's going to give you a negative answer. All right. Problem C, got it, 3A. So now we have another scenario. We have n squared plus 9n minus 36. So notice that our product is going to give me a negative number, minus here, and the sum is going to be positive. So when I do my diamond, again, remember, there's a 1 in front of here, so it's going to be 1 times negative 36, which is negative 36. And then when I add these guys up, it's going to give me 9. So when I do this here, I know that my product, whatever I'm multiplying, is going to be negative 36. And when I add them up, it's going to give me positive 9. So here, I'll do a 1 times a negative 1 times a positive 36. That gives me 35 positive. And negative 2 times 18 gives me 16. Negative 3 times 12. Negative 3 times 12. When I add those guys up together, gives me positive 9. So the reason why I did negative 1 times positive 36 instead of 1 times negative 36 is I knew that when I added them up, they had to be positive. So therefore, I knew that the bigger number, the bigger absolute, had to be positive. So it looks like negative 3 and 9 works. When you do the diamond method, and I haven't done it completely correct, you put these in order of number order. So negative 3 is left of 9 on the number line, so that goes first, the smaller number. So when I do this, it's going to be n minus 3 times n plus 9. And again, doing the FOIL, n times n is n squared, n times 9 is 9n. Whoops, I meant 12. I'm sorry. Boy. Alright, n times 12 is 12n. Negative n times 3 is negative 3n, and then negative 3 times 12 is negative 36. Combine like terms, n squared plus 9n minus 36. And I'm done. This is my answer. That's my check. They give us another one. Which is B, which is c squared minus 4c minus 21. Okay. Doing my diamond method. Remember, there's a 1 here. 1 times negative 21 is negative 21. And when I add them up, they got to give me negative 4. So the product of 21, and when I add them up, they best give me negative 4. So negative 1, let's do this route. 1 times negative 21 gives me negative 20. Negative, or 3 times negative 7, and then when I add up 3 and negative 7 gives me negative 4. So that looks like that works. So it's going to be 3 and negative 7 and 3. So when I set this up, it's going to be c minus 7 times c plus 3. C, using FOIL, c times c is c squared. C times 3 is 3c. Negative 7 times c is negative 7c. Negative 7 times 3 is negative 21. Combine like terms, c squared minus 4c minus 21. So it works. Okay. So 4, it's sort of more of the same. It's another example of doing the same thing. So no problem with that. So 4, we have x squared minus x minus 72. They're asking for the dimensions of it, meaning they just want you to factor it. So when I do the diamond, 1 times negative 72 gives me 72 negative, and when I add them up together, it gives me negative 1. So negative 72, when I add them up, gives me negative 1. So 1 times negative 72 gives me negative 71. Then I have 2 times, what is this, negative 36, which gives me negative 34. And then I have 3 times negative 24, which gives me negative 21. 4 times negative 18, which gives me negative 14. And then I got 6 times negative 12. I knew there was no 5 because it's not a factor of 5. Which gives me negative 6. Can't divide it by 7. Can't divide it by 8. Oh, I guess you can. Boy, yeah, you can. I knew that. And then 8 times negative 9. Yay, there it is. Alright, so it's going to be negative 9 and 8. It's a lot of factors of 72. So when I put this together, it's going to be x minus 9 times x plus 8. Okay. The last thing is multiplying factors with more than one variable. So here how this gonna go. So the book gives me x squared plus 6xy minus 55y squared. So the way that this is going to work is that your answer is going to be in some form of x minus y and x plus y. And it's up to us to find out what number goes in front of the y. There's going to be some type of number that goes in front of the y, and it's up to you to determine that. The process doesn't change. It's just that we had an extra variable at the end. So when we do things like this, still doing the diamond method, but for some reason draw an x. There's a 1 here, so 1 times negative 55 is negative 55. And then when I add them up, gives me 6. Positive. So that tells me that the bigger number is going to be bigger, the bigger absolute. So this is going to be negative 1 and 55. When I'm adding them up, that's 54. I can do 5 and 11. So negative 5 times 11. When I add these guys up, I get 6. So this one seems to work. So this is going to be negative 5 and 11. So I have them. So remember, now that there's an extra variable involved, all I have to do is what I've always done, x minus 5, but now I put a y at the end, and that's all I do. And then x plus 11, and again just put a y, like I've always done. And then when I do the FOIL, x times x is x squared, x times 11y is 11xy, negative 5 times x minus 5xy, and then negative 5 times 11 y is negative 55y squared. So there you go. It fits combined like terms. X squared plus 6xy minus 55y squared. So it definitely checks. Good to go. Process is exactly the same. We still do the diamond method and look for the factors and sum them up. We just add an extra variable at the end, but nothing else changes. So an example of that they give, or problem that they give is got it number 5, and that's m squared plus 6mn minus 27n squared. So this is going to be in some form of m plus n and m minus n. It's just up to us to find out what goes in here and what goes in here. Okay? So doing the diamond method, but for some reason drawing an X. Remember there's a 1 here. So 1 times negative 27 is negative 27. And then when I add them up, gives me positive 6. So I got to find the factors of factor me up to negative 27, and when I add them up, gives me a positive number, which tells me that the bigger absolute will be positive. So negative 1 times 27 is negative 27. If I add them up, that's 26. Can you do it with a 2? Can I do it with a 3? Yes, I can. Negative 3 times 9 is negative 27, and when I add them up, it gives me positive 6. That's the guy. So negative 3, positive 6. When I set this up, it's going to be m minus 3n, right? We found a number in front of m, and then m plus 6n. Okay? Doing FOIL, m times m is m squared. M times 6n is the second time I've done that. It's supposed to be 9. Okay, sorry. 9mn, and then negative 3 times m is going to give me negative 3mn, and then negative 3 times 9n is negative 27n squared. Combine like terms, I get m squared plus 6mn minus 27n squared, and voila. Skadoosh. Oh wait, that's my check. So this is my answer. Skadoosh. I think that's the last one. Okay, so that's the last one. That is that section. I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day.